Hacker News Network presents HNN Cast with your host, Space Rogue.
HNN Cast is sponsored by Astara, simplifying security, and by TrustWave Spider Labs, providing advanced information security services to planet Earth. Become a sponsor. Email sales@hackernews.com.
This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network, and this is HNN Cast for the last week of March 2011. Our top story this week, SCAreDA. It's not been a good week for SCAreDA software, or supervisory control and data acquisition, the software that controls big machines like power plant generators and such. First, Russian security firm GLEG released Agor SCAreDA Plus, which collects all known SCAreDA vulnerabilities in one exploit pack. The 22 modules are said to include 11 zero days. A few days later, researchers released proof of concept code for over 30 additional vulnerabilities. In all, the holes were found in applications from Siemens, Iconics, 7 Technologies, Datec, Control Microsystems, and others. The really sad part is how ridiculously simple most of these vulnerabilities are. Things like format strings and heap overflows. Simple stuff, really. There have been numerous cases in the past of brand new hardware devices shipping from the factory with malware pre-installed. Everything from CD disks to battery chargers to electronic picture frames, not to mention laptops and other devices, have all been a victim. Recently, it was alleged that Samsung had also shipped laptops with the StarLogger commercial keylogger application pre-installed. The allegations were pretty strong, and Samsung unfortunately wasn't very quick with a denial or explanation, which further fueled the rumors. Now, however, we can pretty definitively say that Samsung has not shipped any keyloggers with its new laptops. The false alarm seems to have come from VIPRE antivirus, which flagged an innocent directory as malware, and a security researcher who failed to verify the results, which I guess means she isn't much of a researcher. This does not mean that hardware does not ship with malware, just not this time. We told you last week how some investigative work by IO Error, aka Jacob Applebaum, uncovered a breach at Comodo, an SSL certificate provider. Comodo described the attack as, quote, extremely sophisticated, and pointed the finger at Iran as the most likely perpetrator. But then a rambling diatribe showed up on Pastebin from someone who claimed to be the lone Comodo attacker. In the message, he described exactly how he gained access to SSL authority and created fake certs. He admitted he was from Iran and claimed the attack was in retaliation for Stuxnet. He said he was the lone hacker with the experience of 1,000 hackers. While that remains to be proven, he definitely has the ego of 1,000 hackers. He has additionally claimed to have breached a second unnamed certificate authority and attempted to compromise 2 other Comodo partners. He claims his initial attack vector to get inside Comodo was SQL injection. InfoSpherix, a Maryland company and subsidiary of San Diego-based Active Network, recently suffered a breach that exposed over 900 consumers' credit cards. InfoSpherix was the vendor hired by the state of Maine's Department of Conservation to handle web sales of its state park passes. As a result, the Secretary of State for the state of Maine had to reassure residents that the state's primary website, maine.gov, had not been breached. This breach could be much, much larger, as Active Networks processes credit cards for a large number of organizations nationwide. Unfortunately, Active Networks isn't talking. We'll be back with more HNN Cast right after these messages.
I'm Dan Kaminsky. You're watching Hacker News.
Bye, 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 bye.
Welcome back to HNN Cast. We already told you in an earlier story how the initial attack vector for the Comodo breach was SQL injection. Well, they weren't the only ones. Tincode and Neo from Romania claimed responsibility for popping 2 Oracle properties, sun.com and mysql.com. They posted names and passwords online. They claimed to have discovered the hole back in January. But wait, there's more. A mass SQL injection attack dubbed Lisa Moon has hit over 300,000 URLs, making it one of the largest mass SQL injections ever. The attack injects a line of PHP code that ultimately redirects visitors to scareware sites and attempts to install malware. SQL injection has been in the news a lot lately, and you might think this is a new problem. Actually, it was first discovered by Rainfirst Puppy way back in 1998. I have to wonder why the hell we are still dealing with this. You may have thought it was all over except for the embarrassment, but Congress has now decided to look into the contracts HB Gary Federal may have had with the NSA and DoD.
Dr. Miller, you're no doubt familiar with the firm Palantir Technologies, are you not?
Not deeply familiar. I know the name, sir.
And what about Barrico Technologies?
Also know the name.
All right. General Alexander, have you worked with Palantir? Dr. Miller, would you be so kind as to provide my office with the DoD contracts with Palantir Technologies, Barrico Technology, and the firm HB Gary Federal?
The House Armed Services Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities has asked the Defense Department and the NSA to turn over any contracts it had with HB Gary, Palantir Technologies, or Barrico Technologies, the three main firms involved in the scandal. It may not go any further than that, but it's a start. But that's not the only development in the HB Gary saga. Famed cyber rights lawyer Jennifer Granick, previously of the EFF and now in private practice, who has defended numerous security professionals in the past, is now the attorney of record for HB Gary Federal. Some see this as a natural progression of Granick's career, while others have already labeled her a sellout. Considering the amount of good she has done in the past, she has an awful lot of selling to do before she has sold out. Besides, everyone deserves a good lawyer, even scum like HB Gary Federal. One other footnote to this story this week. Ars Technica, the website that published numerous in-depth stories covering many angles of this story, has decided to cash in. Just a little bit, by releasing all of their HB Gary articles in an ebook form. You can either get everything in a tidy PDF for $1.99, or do some searches in a Google cache and get it for free. Mobile malware is increasingly becoming a huge threat, and it's not just iPhone and Android users that need to watch out. A new man-in-the-mobile, or MitMo Trojan, has been found. Previous versions were pretty exclusive to the Zeus malware family, but this new version is a component of the Spy Eye, which is thought to have recently merged with Zeus. It specifically infects Symbian-based phones and attempts to hijack mobile banking sessions. Mobile banking? I mean, really, people, just don't. If you happen to be in Holland and you need some Wi-Fi, feel free to bust out YPA Cracker, or some other tool and crack open the nearest Wi-Fi access point that you find. Why? Well, a Dutch court has just ruled that breaching Wi-Fi router security is not a crime. According to the judge, a router does not fit the law's definition of a computer and therefore was not subject to criminal penalties. Of course, the Dutch Attorney General will appeal the decision, and if that fails, expect the law to be changed real quick. That's it for big news. We'll have the quickies later, but first, it's tool time. We'll be right back with Tool Time and the H&N Quickies right after these messages.
Can we get an end user license agreement attorney at register 3?
I'll need you to sign here and here to read the book according to the terms of this agreement.
But I just want to buy the book. Why do I need to sign anything?
Does everybody know what time it is? Tool time! That's right, VIPRE Tools is proud to present
Space Rogue.
That's right, it's tool time again. We only have one update this week. QuickRecon, the DNS and email recon tool, has been updated to version 0.2.4. You can update at Google Code, and that means a quick move right into the fresh. First, OWASP has released a complete rewrite of WebScarab as WebScarab NG. Basically, they've brought out the GUI up to a professional level by using a Spring-rich client platform as a framework. OWASP is also releasing the Hatkit proxy, based on Swing UI. It understands JFlex and other syntax, and will highlight it for you. yInjector is an SQL injection tool supporting both GET and POST methods and proxies. It boasts a shell assistant and the ability to perform common database functions that might be wanted over an SQL injection. Virii has released a data block analyzer for Oracle. It certainly looks cool and sounds low level. More interestingly, Virii has also released DDL dump, which will parse Oracle redo logs, dumping the DDL to XML. Now there's some super obvious utility to your database forensics. There. Switching gears, Monocle is a network IDS element of sorts. It monitors ARP traffic to track hosts on the network and also boasts an active mode, which will query ARP for a list of IPs, perhaps the entire local net block. To close things out, we have some tool news for you. 3 items, actually. First, be sure to check out Microsoft's TechNet's article where Mark Russinovich himself uses the sysinternal suite to dissect Stuxnet. You've probably heard more than enough about Stuxnet already, but this gets into some pretty technical detail on the malware. And, more importantly, it showcases what type of stuff you can do with the awesome suite of sysinternal's utilities. Second, if you're using Xcode and love the properties list editor, you might panic when you upgrade to Xcode 4 and find it's gone. It's been integrated into Xcode, so no more standalone utility. So be sure to grab it out of your Xcode 3 directory before you upgrade. And one final note, Mod Security, the web application firewall from OWASP, recently changed its licensing, which then allowed Oracle and Microsoft to jump on board and bring Mod Security to Oracle's Fusion middleware, WebTier, and to ISAPI land under IIS 7. Now it seemed there's a WAF in Ebby web server.
That's all, folks.
That's it for this week's Tool Time. Join us next week for our salute to Tool Time. And now for a few quick stories we found on the net this week. You may remember Ghost Exodus, aka Jesse McGrew, the night security guard at a Dallas hospital who walked around installing malware on computers, filmed it, and put it on YouTube. Well, he got 9 years in federal prison. Last week we told you about the breach of PHP.net. This week it's PHP Frog, a cloud hosting provider built for PHP. In both cases, the admins have been very forthcoming about what happened and how they responded. If you haven't read the after-action report from Cloud Fog, you may find it interesting. We have the link at hackernews.com. TripAdvisor has disclosed that part of its email database has been leaked, but no user passwords were compromised. TripAdvisor has warned its customers to be on the lookout for phishing emails and increased spam. So, the gentleman we told you about a few weeks ago who stole 400 billion virtual poker chips from Zynga.com was sentenced to 2 years in jail. You might have missed this one, but a few weeks ago, F-Secure had to apologize to its Mac users after a bug in its consumer Mac security software caused it to start placing perfectly good files in the trash after thinking they were malware. This sort of thing happens all too often. See the earlier story involving Samsung. You would think that AV companies would eventually get it right, but no, you still can't really trust them. If you depend on your web browser to warn you about phishing attacks, better think again. A new style of the classic phish has hit PayPal, Bank of America, LOLz, and TSB. It stores the fake web page locally, thereby bypassing the browser's built-in warnings on fake websites. Some cross-site scripting flaws were recently found at McAffee.com. I guess that means that McAffee wasn't really McAfee hacker safe now, doesn't it? Apple has added one more signature to its built-in anti-malware protection of OS X 10.6, bringing the total signatures to 4. 4? Are we missing some zeros? Shouldn't this be 40 or 400? 4. Okay, 4. 4 Apple malware signatures. The new signature is for Onion Spy, which mines personal information. Kaspersky claims to have seen Onion Spy in the wild all of 13 times. Gotta wonder how many signatures are in Microsoft Security Essentials. The FBI is asking for your help in solving a decade-old murder. In 1999, a body was found in the woods near St. Louis, Missouri. The only clue? What looks like an encrypted note. The FBI has tried, but couldn't crack it. Assuming it is a real cipher, now they're asking for your help. Not a lot of hard news in this story, but funny as hell. Someone in Houston reprogrammed an electronic road sign to read poop. Nothing about zombies, just poop. Then he later turned himself in. You know, you would think that transportation departments would start locking these things down, but I guess not.
And here's a message for the hacker. If you get caught, it's a $500 fine. And that's nothing to laugh about.
That's all the quick stories we found on the net this week. That means it's time for your
Kung Fu is sponsored by Source Conference, a global security, technology, and business forum.
The finals in the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition is coming up fast. 9 regional winners will head to San Antonio for the first week of April to determine which college has the best cyber defenders. There seems to be a lot of these college and high school level competitions going on. Good. We recently heard of a new con in Dallas called Takedown Con. The speaker lineup looks pretty impressive with Barnaby Jack, and John Flowers. And they're already planning a Vegas edition in December. There's more at takedowncon.com. And if that wasn't enough for new cons, we've also just heard about Dakota Con to be held in April, which means the only question is north or south. Somehow they got Joe Grand, Moxie Marlinspike, Jared DeMott, and DC Flux to visit the frozen tundra and the home of sheeps and cows. Oh yeah, the answer is south, Madison to be exact. Should be thawed out by April. You think? Registration is open for B-Sides Las Vegas if you want to go, and you know you do. Sign up quick before it fills up. The registration and call for papers for B-Side Chicago, Rochester, Detroit, and St. John's are all open. So what are you waiting for? Sign up already. If you were thinking of competing in the very popular social engineering contest at DEF CON this year, you better hurry up and submit your name, as spots are filling up fast. Organizers of the event have stated that 2 target companies have actually volunteered to put their security policies on the line and have agreed to be tested by the best social engineers DEF CON can throw at them. Don't know who these 2 target companies are yet, but kudos for putting your reputation out there. And now for the stack of shame. Nowhere will it be more apparent than right here that what ZDI has done with their vulnerability list has seriously advanced the game one step in the defender's direction. The fact is, we won't be throwing any more birthday parties for vulnerabilities each time they live another year. ZDI is where bugs go to die within 6 months. That also makes the bottom of the stack and the bottom dweller, well, less shameful, or at least less meaningful. It is still a shame that vendors with millions of dollars in revenue are still crowdsourcing the security QA to the customers, then turning around and charging them for the software and quite often annual support. So we're now going to focus on who's doing it the most by tracking the top offenders. So, without further ado, the list of all known open vulnerabilities as cataloged by the Zero Day Initiative. That's it for this week's H&N Cast. I've been your host, Space Rogue, and you've been watching the Hacker News Network. Remember, if you have any news you think we should report, send it to news@hackernews.com. You have been watching H&N Cast. This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network.
Funny do bad things.